It's time for Talkin Tauntauns, your Star Wars source at AIPTcomics.com.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Talkin Tauntauns. I am Jim Lahane, and with me, as always, sporting her ugly Halloween sweater, it's Nicole Herview.
It's me. It's a Hocus Pocus sweater. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah.
It's got the three witches, the brooms, and the vacuum. I got the black flame candle on here. Binks is on here. My own personal Binks is around here somewhere. He's over there. Yeah, I'm ready.
No Roombas?
No Roombas. That was something. That was something else. It was really
I laughed
clever.
pretty hard at the Roomba joke, and it kept coming back, and I kept laughing.
And it was like, hey, like this has plot use. I was like, wow.
That's the
okay.
when it paid off at the end.
Yeah, I was like, all right, okay, good job. I was like, that's pretty good. Yeah, I had a meeting at 8:30 in the morning for work, and I was wearing this, and it was like a client, like an outside like person, and they were like, "You look like you're like ready for Halloween," and I was like, "But guy, Greg, I've been ready for 2 months. It's just socially acceptable now." So here we are.
I've been ready since the day I was born.
Pretty much, yeah. I never stopped being ready for Halloween. Like, it could be November 1st, and I'm like, yes. That's a lie. I like the Christmassy-ness as well, the holidays in general. But January 1st, I'm ready for Halloween, so take that as you will.
Okay.
Anyway, let's introduce the other person.
Yeah, the other leg of the stool, sitting in his corporate America office here. We welcome back former co-host and always Tauntaun, Connor Christiansen.
Hey, back from the dead once again. This is a Hocus Pocus episode, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah.
I've not watched the sequel, mostly because I keep seeing the banner image on Disney Plus, and I'm not gonna lie, Sarah Jessica Parker looks more terrifying than she ever has.
Yeah, well,
I see that header. I'm like,
that's what 30 years will do to you. It's called age.
It's called aging.
But it's just like the juxtaposition of, because the other two actresses whose names I don't know, it's like, oh look, they look exactly the same. And it's like Sarah Jessica Parker. It's like, wow.
You don't know Bette Midler?
I can finish it. I know Brett Midler.
Oh my God, Connor.
I believe is her daughter or something, was on a Disney Channel show when I was a kid.
The Queen, Bette Midler. But you know what? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's fine. It's okay. You know what? I can forgive you this once.
I will say
this is it.
To get back
in your
get back in your good gracious. I am also very excited for spooky season. Yeah, I just re-downloaded Resident Evil 2 to play through again because I bought it last year and then never finished it because I am wasteful. I'm working on an article for the site for 31 Days of Halloween. Shout out to recurring guest Nick Nafpliopleoplotis, whatever his unpronounceable last name is, for putting that together every year. But yeah, I'm working on a Star Wars article for that. Pretty excited to dive into Star Wars horror stories this month, or more so the lack of Star Wars horror stories and why there needs to be more.
I can give you all of the Star Wars horror stories off the top of my head, and I think there's 3.
Let's see.
4.
If we're talking outright, like this is a horror story, the whole thing's horror. You have Tales of Vader's Castle.
Oh, I forgot all those. Yes, you're right.
Shadow of Vader's, and I'm just counting canon at the moment.
Oh.
Tales of Vader's Castle, Shadow of Vader's Castle, and for outright horror, I guess you could say I was going to say Screaming Citadel is technically horror. It's like gothic horror, but it's not scary. And then non-canon EU, I was going to say, there's Death Troopers or whatever the zombie one is.
Death Troopers. There's Red Harvest, which was the sequel-ish to Death Troopers, but took place like 5,000 years before it. So it's like a prequel-ish.
Well, and I was gonna say there's plenty of like this is like part of what I'm gonna talk about in the article is there's plenty of Star Wars stuff that flirts with the idea of horror. Like I mean, most recently Into the Dark. There's sections of that when they first get to Axamine Station that I was like, ooh, this is like kind of a horror book right now. And it's dope. And then they always seem to kind of abandon it. And I just like, I want something Star Wars related that isn't a kid's comic or a Lego special to like really be like, hey, this is a horror story. Like we're doing a Star Wars horror movie or TV show or whatever it is. And that's why I think Marvel doing Werewolf by Night actually is a good thing for Star Wars because they're showing like, look, they can do this full-blown horror thing and people are going to care and they're going to like it and it'll work within our playground. So anyway, didn't mean to derail the talk with Star Wars spooky talk, but yeah, that's something I'm going to be working on this month. Did you ask or did I just start talking about it? I think I just started talking about it.
Well, I wanted to bring up there's also a Dark Horse comic that was a Halloween special. That was like a free comic giveaway, but not on Free Comic Book Day.
Huh.
Oh, yeah, because they do like it's like Halloween Fest. It's put on by the company that does Free Comic Book Day. And it's basically the same thing, but it's just the idea is you go grab these free comics and you give out the comics on to trick-or-treaters with the candy.
Cute.
I actually did that a couple years ago. I didn't like I lived for some reason, I've only lived in college neighborhoods since leaving my parents' house, even after I graduated college. I think I have a problem. So I never get candy because I'm like, well, I live, like, it's all college kids near me, and it's not going to matter. And one year, somebody knocked on our door, and I was like, I don't have candy. Hold on a second. I ran into my room, grabbed a comic I didn't want, and I was like, here you go. Take a comic book.
Nice.
It's a good touch. Helps. Does
Sure.
it better than nothing.
So yeah, the Halloween. I had to look it up because I'm like, I know there was a Halloween comic giveaway. Once it was October 2009. So my memory seems to think that it being in the last couple of years is completely wrong.
It's a decade.
That sounds like I need to go see a doctor. But called Planet of the Dead, and is a reprint from Star Wars Tales number 17, which is also a comic series that was a long time ago. But I thought that was really cool. So that was my three. The Death Troopers, the Red Harvest, and the Star Wars Halloween comic. But I completely forgot about all the Tales from Vader, Vader's Castle, which are... There's the ghost, yeah, the Ghost of Vader's Castle and
Shadow of Vader's Castle, and then I think just outright Tales of Vader's Castle, and they're all good. They're enjoyable, but it's I don't know, just it doesn't make sense to me that there hasn't been, because especially with what Disney's been doing, where what they like to do is take Star Wars and then apply different genres to it, like Andor, which we'll be talking about today, is a spy thriller set in Star Wars. Like, why not do a full blown horror movie? Like, or a horror TV show, especially if you can center it around the Sith. Like, they're scary in nature.
I wonder if that's where Acolyte is going.
Hey, he read my mind.
I hope so. I would be stoked on it.
I saw the LEDs light up on Nicole's head that indicate that the processing units were active.
Yeah, they were going. They were. Yep. Actioned.
One more thing before I forget, because you brought up Dark Horse, and specifically Dark Horse Comics. I don't believe I talked about this on the podcast yet. I tracked down every issue of Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Okay.
And finally read it. And for those who might not know, Splinter of the Mind's Eye was the first novel published in the extended universe canon after A New Hope came out.
Before the expanded universe was even an expanded universe, yeah.
And it was before Empire Strikes Back came out, but it was after Empire Strikes Back had been greenlit. But it is based on essentially a spec script that was going to be a made-for-TV movie had Star Wars failed. It was going to be the sequel to A New Hope if Star Wars had been a bit of a flop, and I think the plan was like it'll be direct-to-TV movie. And howdy, is it a story.
It's so, like, to get a little more into it, there's a few things that Alan Dean Foster wrote Splinter of the Mind's Eye, who he also wrote the original Star Wars novelization. Well, he was the ghostwriter because George Lucas is the, quote, author of the original Star Wars. But he was told you need to keep the budget low. So you want it on a planet that you don't see much. So it's a shadowy a foggy planet, which is Mimban. We actually talked about Mimban last week because that's where it came from. Split of the Mind's Eye. And we didn't get Harrison Ford to sign up yet. You'll notice he's not in the book.
Not in it at all.
Because he wasn't signed up for the sequels yet, and so that they didn't put him into the book just in case they couldn't get him to sign on.
They also completely it's the most unrecognizable version of Princess Leia you'll ever experience. She goes from you have in A New Hope, she is like the opposite of a damsel in distress. She's pretty much outsmarting her rescuers. Kind of rescuing them, and then in this she is just nothing but she is something for Luke to constantly have to go save. It's mind-numbingly frustrating reading it. It's fun to read in a sense of like a what if, like wow, look how bad things could have gotten. But it's so frustrating. But it introduces Mimban. Not at all what we see later. Like it's not a mud planet or anything like that. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the first mention of Kyber crystals, but it's spelled differently. It's Kaiburr, but it's the same idea as the ultra powerful crystals that fuel major weapons.
So I believe it is the first in print, but I believe the term Kyber came from one of Lucas's drafts.
Yeah,
because he had like 6 or 7 drafts of Star Wars, and that's where we get Mace Windu. Or Mace, the kid from the Ewoks movie. That
I swear,
I may
that
have
is still one you're never gonna get me to watch. I tried,
buddy. He did it.
I know.
He did it. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. I'm still waiting to wake up from.
Months ago, he texted me.
I don't know if we'll get Raven back on the show. I made her watch that.
Oh God, no! Months ago, Jim texted me. He's like, "Hey, I'm like, if you're up for it, like, might have you like do some like recurring guest spots on Tauntauns while JJ's out here and there for his waiting for his kid to be born." I was like, "Yeah, totally. I'll jump in when you need me." He goes, "Cool. I'm gonna make you watch the Ewok movies," and I was like, "Absolutely not. You are down. I'm not gonna do it because I tried before you asked. I tried to watch them, and I think I got 12 minutes into the first one. I was like, this is awful.
It got worse, Connor. It went down from there. I cannot explain if you want comedy, listen to that episode of the podcast because I'm sure it's hilarious. I was so mad. I was just so livid the whole episode. And listen, holy crap. I literally, like, Jim was like, I think joking about making me watch the second one, and I yelled. I got loud because absolutely the hell not. I have told him once and I'll tell him again, you do that without me, buddy. Like, you find a day I'm not here. You go ahead.
The first solo episode of Tauntauns is going to be Jim talking to himself about the Ewoks. I don't remember what it's called. I do know. I remember from watching the trailers, I was like, the sequel, and honestly, even the first one, looks more like, it just looks like Willow. It doesn't look like Star Wars, which don't even get me started on Willow. Not that I dislike the movie. When Jim and I were at Star Wars Celebration, they spent a weird amount of time talking about Willow, and it was like, why? Anyway, that'll get me off topic. I'm not going to watch it. I'm sorry. I won't do it. That's that. I won't watch the Ewok special.
Okay.
You did say that there was a scene I had to watch from the second one that I still haven't watched yet.
I haven't gone back yet. So
good. Okay. Well, maybe I'll see that.
It terrifies me that you said yet. That you said haven't gone back yet, implying that you plan to go back and watch it again.
We'll have this discussion at another time. Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's not happening. Thank you.
When someone's not so vitriol about it.
Jim, you want me to quit? I'll do it. I will.
You threatened to
Damn.
quit when I said we were doing this podcast every day, and here we are. For people who don't
Literally.
know, we recorded 2 days ago.
We did. We did. No, I mean, that was a joke. I'm dead serious. I'm like not kidding.
I think.
Oh my god.
I think the Ewoks specials are the perfect example of like, see, were things really that good when George Lucas still had full control? Like,
But really, though.
are we looking back with rose-colored glasses? Like, yeah, the Vespa gang was not great. We can, I think,
my
I'll
God.
see that. Like, it's a weird portion of Star Wars, but like, I'll take the Vespa gang over 3 god-awful made-for-TV movies that are not even barely watchable, that are flat-out unwatchable.
3?
The holiday special and both Ewok
Oh,
movies.
I knew what he was talking about.
holiday special's not Lucas. He basically gave full control
you're
to
right,
somebody
he had-
else for that. So it's
Wasn't it like Saturday
it-
Night Live writers, basically? He was like, here, do a variety show. And
it was not Saturday Night Live. It was a variety. I think it was like Donnie and Marie writers.
Oh no, that's worse.
rough.
It's
That's significantly worse.
They couldn't even get Mad TV to do it.
Wow.
yeah.
Listen.
So you can blame George Lucas for a lot of things, but the holiday special, well, I guess him writing off the holiday special and saying, "Yeah, you guys go do whatever you want to do," was a poor decision on his part. But that shovel he got to bury it seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah, at least he had the I guess hindsight to kill it with fire and dirt and brimstone.
So we all set to talk our main topic of the day.
Suddenly the rebellion is real for you. Some of us live it. I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. You're not the only one who lost everything. Some of us just decided to do something about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's move on to happier subjects, and
Andor?
I really, really love Andor. I actually haven't gotten a chance to really talk to either of you about like any of the episodes, let alone this one. I love this show. I would not call it happy though. It's not.
No, it ain't.
It's
It
the
ain't
least
happy.
hopeful Star Wars show you'll ever watch. But yes, anyway, to answer your question, I am prepared to talk.
All right.
Love that.
So moving on to episode number 5 of Andor, The Axe Forgets, released as we're recording today, October 5th.
Go
And
us.
like I said, this is the middle episode of their 3-episode arcs, and it felt it.
It sure is.
It felt like I understand Nicole's pacing issues, and it was here in full force. Like I feel like if you compare episode 3 to this episode, they are polar opposites with the speed of the episode.
Yeah, I think, but before the show came out, they had kind of like given a warning, like, look, like this is a slow burn, slow pace show. Like we're really taking our time. Be ready for that. And like this was the episode that was like, if you didn't believe us, this is a slow paced, slow burn show. Because while I like this episode and what it does for character development for a lot of the newer characters, plot wise, pretty much nothing happens. Like
Well,
More or less.
It's definitely not a plot episode. It is a character episode. Like it did move the plot forward, but that was
step.
it was like literally a step.
Yeah, listen, I've talked about my pacing issues with this show. I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel here. This I still don't think bothered me as much as 1 and 2 did.
I think because they were 1, 2, and 3 were all together, it was far more
I
noticeable.
Not even. I mean, I was enjoying this episode, even though it was slow as hell. I thought that the character work was actually meaningful. Like, all of it was like, okay, I see where this is going and where this is gonna, like, take us. Like, this is all important steps to take. I saw the value in this episode more than I did 90% of 1 and 2. But yeah, the pacing, it's not as much a problem here as it is just a choice that I'm not sure was the right one. But at least it's being actioned intelligently. Like I don't know. There's something different about episode 5 versus episode 1 and 2 in terms of pacing. I don't have as much a problem with this episode as I did the others, but it's still not the best. Like I'm not thrilled, you know?
I think the characters here are a lot more likable than what we were getting in 1 and 2. We're getting a lot more deep into the characters. Like we're understanding them a lot better. So we want to see more of them. Like that Rebel Cell. I really like the Rebel Cell. That's our primary focus was around the Rebel Cell. We got a little bit with Mon Mothma and Douche Canoe together.
Yeah.
And we got a little bit, I find the most questionable inclusion is What's His Nuts.
What's His Nuts? We have What's His Nuts and Douche Canoe. Connor, just so you know, we have What's His Nuts and Douche Canoe. Those are their official names.
Nicole,
Go ahead, Jim.
Nicole
What's his nuts eating his Cocoa Puffs?
Yes.
Yes.
They were tricks. They were definitely tricks, not Cocoa Puffs. They were colored.
Yes, but there are Cocoa Puffs in Galaxy's Edge, so there were colored. They were like brown and blue Cocoa Puffs, and there are Cocoa Puffs in Galaxy's Edge.
Okay,
so
I have not
think
seen
they're
those.
Cocoa
So,
Puffs.
all right.
It's on
I'll stand
coffee.
corrected.
There's a coffee that you could get that has Cocoa Puffs on top of it.
Okay, I stand corrected. I
all
will
I'm gonna
take
say.
back my criticism. You win. So yes,
Good. Sit down.
This is my podcast now, old man.
Look at me. I'm the captain now. Son of a gun.
so Drea
ahead.
christened What's His Nuts and Nicole christened
Yes.
Douche Canoe.
Douche Canoe.
So What's His Nuts with his mother went on for a really long time, and I feel like it didn't go anywhere. Like we didn't get any more there than we had when it started.
I feel like it's gonna pay off. Like it has to pay off. But yeah, it's just like, this is real. Like you're really just reminding us he's here.
And that
Like,
he
they're
has
really
a,
just like,
he has
remember
a
this
disappointed
guy?
mother.
Yeah, very disappointed mother who I only know from Harry freaking Potter. And I'm just sitting there looking at her like, yep, you had like 3 lines in one Harry Potter movie. And that's
Was she in
all I
Harry
know you
Potter?
From. She was. She is, I think it's Mrs. Fig. She's the neighbor that in the 5th movie approaches Harry after he casts the Patronus charm to save him and Dudley. And she like brings him home and is like, hey, like don't leave the house, like stuff's weird. And then she like testifies on his behalf at the Ministry of Magic.
Oh, I couldn't even.
Don't listen.
Even with your explanation,
oof.
I still do not remember her.
It's fine. It's a problem that I grew up loving that stuff, and now I shun it
It's
99% of the time because the creator's a walking garbage can, and if I could kick her, I would. And yeah, horrible human being. So I really try to distance myself from it. But then stuff like what just happened happens, and I knowledge dump. And yeah, I can't unsee her.
Yeah, it's one of those try to separate the art from the artist, and
Yeah, can't do that. But yeah.
Well, I fully understand. Like Picasso was a terrible human being, but he made awesome art. So it's like, how do
But
you?
he's dead. But he's dead. She's not. That's where my thing is. She's not dead. My money giving God, I'm angry. Giving my money to her directly contributes to bad things in this world, and therefore I won't. Whereas Picasso's dead, so we can't do anything about that. You know what I mean? Tolkien, not a great person, but he's dead and his son's dead. Like, I'm not worried about it anymore. Like, it is what it is. But anyway, that's a different podcast.
Actually, I think
That's a different
Tolkien's. I've heard both sides. I've heard people
What, Tolkien's
misinterpreted.
still alive?
No, people misinterpreted Tolkien.
I think that he's got good and bad, and that is what it is. There's
Yeah.
good and bad to everything that he put out there. There's some pretty rough crap in there, but then there's also some really good stuff. So it's,
So anyway,
anyway.
I was gonna say with this not this guy reminds me of Ramsay Bolton so much from Game of Thrones, but it's not him, but it looks just like him. I thought it was for a long time. His inclusion in this episode is the only one, like, even the Mon Mothma stuff, like, you're like, okay, like, it's, like, slightly dry, but I see what they're building here. They're trying to build, like, look, there is division within the elites of the Empire. Like, it's not all sunshine and roses for them either. It's bad all around. But with him, I was like, I think they're very, 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 very slowly. I can't tell if it's either building up that he's going to make... At the end of the episode when he's looking at the hologram of Andor, I was like, okay, so it's like, his arc going to be that he's solely hunting down Andor? Or are we watching him slowly get disenfranchised with the Imperial system, and he's going to turncoat to become a rebel, just like Agent Callus in Rebels?
That's
Connor, did you listen to what I said 2 days ago?
Is that what you said?
2 days ago.
Because I think that's might be what we're getting. Is like,
Yeah.
oh, is he going to be a turncoat? Like, are we seeing the beginning of him realizing how bad the system is for everybody? Which would be a cool storyline. Like, granted, it's been done before. It's actually been done a lot in Star Wars with, Battlefront 2 and, like I said, with Rebels. But that would be a cool storyline to watch. But again, his inclusion in this episode was like, oh, like, you only, if that's what you're doing, you barely moved it forward to the point where it just distracted from other better scenes, I thought.
Like, I don't even feel like they moved it forward. I feel like he made no progress from the time he arrived when his mother slapped him, then hugged him. Then this entire episode, she berated him or like, why don't you go out with that girl I wanted to set you up with? So, like, I'm surprised she didn't say that. And, like, at the end, you're right, he's staring at the hologram, but it was too much. Like, one scene, we even got one scene of the ISB, and I feel like that was more impactful, although, again, not much there.
Yeah,
Jim, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit here. We're seeing him in monotony. We're seeing him at the bottom. We didn't get to see that as much. We saw him get slapped, and that's about it. But in this episode, we see a couple scenes of him just like being, basically, and being a little bit more pernicious towards his mother in every scene. So it's very, very subtle, but he is like literally having a different attitude towards authority in his life in every scene he's in. So if that's the seed that they are planting, they're doing it very, very subtly, and it's stuff that on a second watch you'd probably be like, oh my god, like, it's right there. And I think that's what they're doing. Listen, if that's not what they're doing, then yeah, the scenes were garbage. but if that's the seed that they're planting, it worked. Like, I noticed that every time he showed up, he was a little more pissed off. He was a little more, I'm gonna talk back right now. Like, a little bit more in each scene. They were longer than they needed to be, I'll give you that. But I do think that if they are going down the path that we're picking up on, they're useful. If they're not, they're not. But
so hold on, I need to Google pernicious.
ooh,
I was gonna say,
I'm just joking. I Googled it 5 minutes ago.
I'm just kidding. I couldn't spell it.
That's what Google fixes for you.
I still can't figure out if, with what you were saying, Nicole, with, like, you see him, he's getting more and more angry / annoyed with each scene you see him. And I really can't tell, like, okay, is he going to go, like I was saying earlier, is he going to go turncoat, or
is he going to lean in?
does he kind of give you incel vibes? A little bit?
He does give me incel vibes.
A little more than a little bit.
Yeah, like,
He gives me incel vibes.
It could either go, they're going to have him turncoat, he's going to become a good guy, or is he going to go full-blown incel? That's why, like, if next episode they bring up, if she makes a reference to, like, well, you haven't seen a lady, I'm like, okay, they're going incel with him. They're going full incel.
Right. Like, they might be avoiding that. Who knows? It's interesting. I don't know which way they're going to, go with him, but they're planting seeds for something. Like, they're not just going to leave him there with mom. Like, he's going to blow up one way or the other.
Yes.
And it's going to be wild. But yeah, I think also very interesting were the scenes with Mon Mothma and Douche Canoe and their kid, who also like kind of sucks a lot, but also like that's a teenager.
That's a teenager. So
Sassy.
as the
She
parent
is
of a
taken after her
12-year-old,
dad.
well, as
Yeah.
a parent of a 12-year-old, I would say spot on. Like I wouldn't
for
say
sure.
she's even taking after her dad. She's just being a teenager. Like that's
Jim's on the couch like, that's you, by the way.
Oh
Just so you know. If you're wondering which character you are in this show.
It's that one.
Doesn't
Yeah.
that seem disrespectful?
Yeah, that was something. Yeah, that woman is just fighting a losing battle at home, which is a nightmare. But she also had just the best dig I've heard in the show so far, when Douche Canoe is like, "Oh, you didn't tell me about your new like foundation or whatever," and she's like, "I didn't think you'd be interested because it's charitable," and I was like, "Oh my god." Like, that is so like not even backhanded. That is like full front hand, bam, like screw you and screw everything about you. And also her being like, "You know the driver's name, you're just an idiot. Like you're just a douche canoe." She had some good moments.
I wonder if he is supposed to be aristocracy, and
I think he definitely is.
And that's where we're getting, oh, I don't know the help's name.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're clearly not charitable sort of thing. Like, I think we're kind of getting the, I'm up here, I don't need to worry about the little people sort of
I'm not
attitude.
affected by those people's problems.
Yeah,
Like
that.
Yeah. And I think that's part of like, I don't know, like the layers of the show is you're getting the more militant side of the rebellion, which is obviously what Andor's up to. Sorry, Clem, what he's up to, and like legitimately in the midst of a full blown assault. And then you have the more subtle political subterfuge of what Mon Mothma's up to, and her realizing like it's not just we don't need just like a military uprising, but like we need full-blown societal change. That the people at the top, like my lovely husband, who I don't even think he's been named yet in the show.
He is named.
I like Douche Canoe more anyway.
Yeah, it's Douche Canoe.
His name's Douche Canoe.
But like her slowly realizing like, oh, there's like a culture war that needs to be fought too, to get people here in the core of the galaxy to care about these atrocities that are happening. I think that's why even though an episode like this and the show itself is very slow paced, I'm still enjoying it so much because of these like multiple threads they're pulling at in how we're seeing the rebellion all come together. It's what I was hoping it would be. It really feels like a more, and you guys know my very well documented admiration for Rebels, but this feels like, so what I'm about to say is not a dig. This feels like a more adult Rebels. Like this is, whereas Rebels focused on this one tight-knit squad and their involvement in the beginning of the rebellion, this is more like, no, but here's how the seeds of rebellion are planted and how it starts. And it so far has been, like we were talking before we started recording, like this is not a hopeful show at all. And in fact, like one of the few negative complaints I saw from a fan that I actually was like, but they do bring up a good point, was that Star Wars is supposed to be hopeful, and there's nothing hopeful about this. This is grim and depressing and dark, and nothing's going well for anybody involved, including the Imperial characters we have. Like, even in the ISB, things aren't going well. So there is, I think that's a valid complaint that, like, this isn't at all hopeful, but I also think it brings a more grounded feel to the rebellion and makes you realize like the rebellion had to happen because of what was what was going on in everybody's lives. So that's really what I'm enjoying, and it's partly why I still enjoy an episode like this, is because yes, you're getting a smaller advancement of the plot, but you're getting deeper into the machinations behind each character's drive to launch into the rebellion. Even Andor's, who we have the most knowledge of. So I've really, really been loving that. And again, just like the little tidbits of information we get about each character throughout the episode dropped in these like little lines about their history and where they're from and why they're involved in things, I think is what makes up for the slower pace. That and the fact that this show is so gorgeously shot. There's so many moments in the show that you could pause it and be like, that could be like a framed photograph or a painting and it would work. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is beautiful. I've said that every episode, I think, that we've done. It's just like, why is it pretty? She's pretty. Yeah, I do get the point of, like, there's no, like, hope. There's no feeling of hope in this show. I feel like if it's gonna be anywhere, it's gonna be at the end. That's kind of, like, the point. But that's what I have to say about a lot of the show is I think we can judge it fairly at the end. Unfortunately, because this is not written like a serial TV show. It's written like a very, very long bingeable thing, but it isn't, which is interesting.
Especially with the way they end every episode. Every episode just ends.
It does.
There's,
it just ends.
there's no natural ending. Every episode is just, and credits. Okay, see you guys next week. So I agree with that. Like, it is a little annoying. It's like, okay, you clearly wrote this to be binged. Yet you just
100%.
end every episode abruptly. It worked for the first 3 episodes because they were released all at once. But then like this week's kind of has a more natural ending. But like last week's, where it just ends with them eating dinner at the campfire. I was like, what? Just stopped? Like, what is happening?
It just ended.
We hit 45 minutes. All right, it's over.
I guess that's it. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's been interesting, but, like, I'm still really into this core group and, like, that story. And what is the kid's name? Again, it's gone from my brain. You know, the model kid. The kid who makes his models and stuff. And
they called
talks
him
a mile a minute.
They called him by his last name, and that's not the name that I had given in the last episode. So it's
yes.
It's something. If you give me a second, I'll look it up.
Yeah, you find it. I'll talk.
It's Karis Nemec.
Yeah,
Nemec.
They call him Nemec. I called him by his first
kid.
name. Yes.
Karis. Yes. I love that kid, and I love him more this episode. He talked so much and so quick, and thank God for closed captions and subtitles, because the Lord above, he was going a mile a minute, and I love him. I just want to protect him. I can't wait to watch him die next week. Like, it's going to be so sad. I love him more with every moment. Like, the fact that everyone's blowing up, and he's just, like, on the rock, like, there's a ship! Like, he's just, like, all the way over there. Like, he's just like, what's going on? Like, he's like 10 miles away. And I just love him so much. And meanwhile, Clem's getting into a fight. And it's just a lot. It's just a lot. They got some issues, those people.
So
I like that. I was going to say, he's the youngest character, but seems to have the best grasp on how a rebellion works. Like, he seems borderline patient of understanding, like, this isn't all going to happen right now. This one thing we're going to do is going to lead to another thing we're going to do, and all of it's going to take a very, very long time, but this is how we get it done. And the fact that he's writing a manifesto, I think that was just funny. That I thought he was joke when Skeen was like, he's writing a manifesto. I thought it was a joke, but then I was like, oh no, he's actually, like, he's not kidding. He really is writing a manifesto. That is great.
This kid's a speechwriter.
Sorry, Jim. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I was going to say, like, I really like the cast. I think we got a ton with him, and we got a ton with Skeen. We still have barely anything on Cinta and Terramin. I feel like we could have gotten more on that, and we got quite a bit on the turncoat. I can't remember his name off the top.
The lieutenant gentleman.
Yes. And I don't see him on this list
Well,
of characters.
We also got some backstory on him, which I really appreciated.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like those three, Skeen, the kid, Nemec, the kid, and the lieutenant. Like, we got good backstory on them
we got
three.
some stuff. Yeah.
Like Cinta, I feel like as her and Vel. Like, even though Vel is like one of the main characters, we know nothing about her.
Right.
And like and Cinta with, like, I feel like we need more. They've given almost nothing on them.
Yeah.
Other than Cinta is cutthroat.
Well.
Yeah, and she's a good healer. That's what we know about her.
I can fill you in. Cinta is a capital city in the south that Geralt of Riviera visits at one point in time and is bestowed with a prophecy that eventually leads him to come into stewardship of the young Princess Ciri.
Yeah, the surprise, the whatever, the gift
law
of surprise.
Yeah, law of surprises.
Law of surprise. Thank you so much for that.
That is.
He's talking about The Witcher, Jim.
That's a joke 17 people are going to get, but they're going to love it.
I got it.
Literally
I understood.
no idea. Like blank.
I knew Nicole was going to get it. I was like, I'm going to go for this joke, and Nicole get it.
I appreciate that Geralt is now from the Riviera. Instead of Geralt of Rivia. Really.
Geralt of Riviera.
Geralt of Riviera. He not only is from the place, but he really likes to stay at that Disney resort. That's his Disney resort of choice.
He's a preferred
and when he's there, he calls himself Geralt of Riviera, and he rides the Skyliner and tells people. This is a worse joke now because even fewer people are gonna enjoy that.
Levels.
The Venn diagram of Witcher fans and Disney World fans.
And Andor watchers.
I got the Disney references with the Riviera and the Skyliner, but
there you go. Okay.
I'm in that circle. I'm not in the other circle.
Yeah. Well, you see, what had happened, Jim, is the character's called Geralt of Rivia, and what Connor had said is Riviera. And
Sintra is the city.
Sintra is the city.
In The Witcher.
My level of interest petered out like 10 minutes ago.
Sorry, go Andor.
And back to Andor. Yes. I will say, I think Skeen is slowly becoming one of my more favorite of that rebel group we have. I think also that's easy to say because he's the one who probably has been given the most backstory now. He's the one we know the most about.
He also has the direct conflict with Andor. So, we know more about him just because he's been, he's our antagonist, essentially.
Yeah, and you want, I feel like as the viewer, I wanted to be annoyed by him. But also at the same time, I don't really blame him for being so distrusting of Andor. Especially once you find out, the guy basically grew up in prison colonies. Hasn't really, has never really been able to be in one place, it looks like. I kind of understand, he's going to be, and he is so steadfastly committed to this that he's going to be so untrusting of any newcomers. So as much as I want to dislike him, I do find myself gravitated towards him the most. Just because I think he's easy to empathize with, especially his distrust of newcomers. I completely understand that.
I agree. I think everything he does is I get that. I understand. You don't have all the information I do. We trust Cassian because he's the main character.
We have to.
We know him. We know that guy. Whereas if I was our boy Skeeter over there, I'd be like,
from Doug?
Who is this son of a gun? What I would distrust him. I'd be right there with him.
He doesn't even go here.
He doesn't even go here. I'd just be so mad. So yeah, it's completely understandable, as frustrating as it may be, because we know Cassian's trustworthy ? We know he ends up in the right place. So
there's Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, I was going to say, I'd found out by our friend Holly's post that I did not realize he's from The Punisher, and you had mentioned, Connor, that he's from The Bear. I didn't even realize it.
He's got the best joke in The Bear.
Oh, Holly's people know him from The Punisher, and I'm looking at his picture and I go, oh, that's who he is in The Punisher, of a show I truly despised.
So he's totally... the role he has in The Punisher is not the role he usually plays. The types of roles he does is what he's doing in Andor. The kind of loudmouth, angry guy who's lovable but is mean. And in The Bear, that's exactly who he is in The Bear. And he has the best joke in The Bear where they're doing a kid's birthday party and the chef's like, "Hey, Richie, where'd you put the ketchup?" He's like, "I didn't bring ketchup. What kind of a-hole puts ketchup on a hot dog?" And the guy looks at him and goes, "A child, Richie." And he goes, "Yeah. A child a-hole," and it's the best part in the whole show. But yeah, he's phenomenal. He's like one of my favorite parts of the show right now. Another moment that like really caught my eye in this episode. There were multiple scenes where you see the turncoat lieutenant again, who I also can't find his name, but where he is just doing his imperial duties, like just going about his day as a lieutenant. And it's when he's overlooking the valley with the comms officer, which again is another gorgeous shot where you're just like, the cinematography in this show and the whoever's the director of photography in this show is going to win all the Emmys because it's so well shot and it's so well framed. But he's sitting there, he's talking to him, and you get this sense that at first you're like, oh, here's a comms officer, he's just getting a breath of fresh air. Like, the Empire's not all that bad. Like, look, there's just normal people in there who are just like also slaves to this giant machine, and you're starting to kind of feel bad for him. And then all of a sudden he starts talking about the locals and how they smell, and how, can you imagine if there were thousands of them? Oh, it's terrible. And this is before we know that the lieutenant had fallen in love with the local.
That's why I was wondering if he was a local, but like his reaction, but like fell in love with the local. I'm like, you married into local.
Yeah. And I really liked that moment because it was kind of, it refuted something that has happened in certain Star Wars stories that annoys me, particularly Star Wars Squadrons and one of my most beloved stories of all time in Lost Stars, where they try to humanize members of the Empire too much for my taste. They try to make you realize, like, oh, look how many of these people are just like everyday people doing their jobs. And I get that people are complex, but still it's like, yeah, but we need a clear-cut villain, and the Empire needs to be villains. Star Wars Squadrons is potentially the biggest culprit of this. But what I liked here is they started to do that, and then they reminded you, but like, yes, like this is an everyday normal guy going about his 9-to-5 job, essentially. But guess what? He's still a space Nazi. He's still a judgmental, racist prick. And it's a very fast moment. I thought that was a great job of quickly reminding you, like, these are the bad guys. And even the low-level technician is still a part of this machine that is ruining people's lives. And I again, it's very minor, but it's another reason why I think this show works despite being slow-paced.
Lieutenant
this episode
Gorn.
2 worked for me. Gorn, thank you.
Gorn.
Lieutenant Gorn.
What was also interesting, it's a great shout, Connor, but what's also interesting about all of his scenes were that at every step, he is, yes, doing his duty, doing what he's supposed to do, and also setting up everybody for the plan. Like, you know what the plan is, so you see him, like, talking about, like, people working at the time of the eye or whatever the heck it's freaking called.
The painting scene, he's manipulating everyone there so well.
Oh, yeah. And, like, they end up doing, and, like, he's walking away with the smile on his face, and you're like, over and over and over again, every single scene of his is showing you him, like, laying the groundwork for them. And, like, they're telling us, like, yes, we could trust this guy, like, completely. Like, this guy's, he's on the inside, but he's doing exactly what we need him to do. Oh, and by the way, this is why he hates the Empire. And you're like, okay, cool, good. So we have that, like, cemented, which is really interesting.
And meanwhile, you have Cassian, and they're, like, Vel's grilling him, like, how would you get this ship? How would you fix the weight issue on the ship? And he looks at them and goes, you have no idea what you're doing, do you? No, just answer the question. You have no idea what you're doing. And it's like everyone on your team, there's one guy who knows what he's doing, and he's not here.
Yeah, pretty much.
In a weird way, Cassian's pretty much the least trustworthy person on that team right now.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
100%. And also maybe the least likable. Like, on purpose.
The most closed off, the most aggressive, or at least, not the most aggressive, because Skeen's most aggressive, but the most,
confrontational?
Yeah, the most, the unearned confrontational attitude.
Yeah.
It's like,
my dude is going from 0 to 100 in 0.2 seconds.
Hey,
like
don't touch his stuff. Don't touch his stuff.
When he throws the milk away.
whoa.
He gives him the milk being like, hey, this will sustain you for a while. I know it's gross, but like it's what you need. And
Drink your milk.
Because drink your milk, and he throws it away and like smiles at him. Like, Cassian's a bit of a prick.
Yeah, a little bit. He's really just like, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, my guy goes real quick. Like, I'm like, Diego, is this what are we doing? What are we doing, Mr. Luna? Like, what's going on? But it's just Cassian being so on edge. Like, it's wild. It's wild to watch because, like, he's not anywhere near like that in Rogue One. Am I wrong? Like, am I misremembering? Like,
No, he's a pretty
so
big prick
settled
in Rogue
in.
One.
He's just more,
Yeah,
it's more calculated, though.
Right. It's not like he's got a temper and he's 0 to 100, like yelling at people. He's like being a dick, but like calmly, coolly, and quietly. Like, and this is like he's on. It's fireworks. It's fireworks at every second. And I'm like, this is showing me character growth in reverse, and I kind of like it. Like, I kind of dig that he's like prickly and barbed and like on fire, whereas where we see him later, he's the same way. Like his personality.
When we see him
has
later,
not changed.
he's exactly the same.
His personality is the same, but the way he is interacting with people is not. Do you know what I'm saying? Like his
Yes,
intention and his attitude is the same, but he is nowhere near as quick to fly off the handle. He is like used to this at this point, and he knows that like that's not the way to, you know, get your point across to people. Like he'll get it across and he'll be a bitch about it, but like differently, like effectively.
He's less of a uncontrolled wildfire and more of a canal of magma in Rogue One.
Sure, yeah.
I wonder how Rogue One Cassian would have handled the situation differently, where he's like, yeah, I'm being paid. What do you want about it?
Wow, what a thing.
Like,
what a thing he did.
Well, like, it makes sense. Like, he even explained himself. He's like, I don't want to be looking over my shoulder that you, Mr. Skeen, who is not a douche canoe, because we already have that term, but you will stab me in the back. And I'm like, that makes sense. But I feel like you're right. Rogue One Cassian would have handled that very differently.
Yeah.
Like taking Skeen aside and kind of like put the hurting on him. Like you fall in line.
There's a 38% chance that Rogue One Andor kills Skeen
Oh, yeah.
later in
there.
that day.
Yeah. Like by the river.
Yeah. Oh no, he slipped and fell.
I don't know what happened. I never saw him.
What a
what
tra-
river?
What a
One of those
tragedy.
funky ass goats with their.
Must have got him with their horns, impaled him.
I love those goats. I'm not going to lie to you. I love them.
I hear the milk will sustain you, but you'll regret life choices in a couple days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing that that was really cool, and again, it's kind of a minor thing. That TIE fighter sweeping over them.
Yeah.
That rumbled my room while I was watching it.
That rumbled my room.
Yeah.
That, you know.
That was dope. Like, there's just that was just like, I don't have anything to say other than like, yeah, that was really cool. Like, that
yeah,
was just,
it was a cool one.
the like 11-year-old me was like, yeah, do it again. It was
Go again.
very, very cool. So I don't know. I think I've run through everything that I'd noted while watching it. I kind of want my biggest complaint is that we didn't get enough Stellan Skarsgård this week because
Well, that's why I want to bring him up because I have my major note for him. One, he looks terrible. Like he looks like he got like he has his looks like he has his long hair wig, not his short hair, but it looks like he got hit by a bus.
Yeah, it's not in a good way at that point. Probably from him fretting and stressing out.
But
he's disheveled.
But yes,
He's disheveled.
but he has like an interesting thing that they're lining up because we have, what's his nuts, looking at the picture of Andor, and then we have Luthen saying, "I have the only person that can expect you is Vel." He's like, "Well, no," he's like, "I messed up. Andor can be linked back to me." And I think those two storylines, along with Andor's personal storyline, are going to be all intersecting into each other. That's kind of where we're getting each of these things from.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it was also interesting to see him stressing out. Like, he's been so calm, cool, and collected, and just like, this is it. This is what you have to do. This is how this works. Let's go. Like, whatever. Very straight. Like, you know. And in this episode, we get him freaking out. Like, losing it a little bit. And I thought that was a quick turn. Like, a really quick turn. But okay, I guess.
Well, he's also essentially by himself. He has his assistant there, who I assume is his like right hand, and that's it. So he can kind of let his guard down, and like
yeah. But we never got to a point where he was like, "Oh wait, I goofed." Like, let me start. Like, I felt like there was a scene missing for him, honestly. Like, to get us there, like a bridge to like. Oh, like, something needed to trigger him being like, wait a second. Like, maybe I just done goofed. Because he went from everything's fine to I really messed up real quick, at least to us. Like, I thought that was, like, there might be a cut scene somewhere that didn't make it into the episode. I don't know. I felt like that was a really quick turn for him. I didn't dislike the turn. I didn't dislike the choice. I just thought it was, with everything else being so slow, for that to happen so quickly felt really strange. But I don't know. Not my least favorite choice in the world, but still an odd one.
Yeah, I think with that scene, we were just getting to see, in general, how chaotic rebellions just are, and how little control you can only put things in place and hope it works out for the best.
This is Connor's experience in the multiple rebellions that he's been in.
Oh, yeah.
I've overthrown over 17 despots.
Wow.
I have...
Where were you on January 6th there, Connor?
Jesus.
Hey, you can't, what are you going to do? I mean...
On the other side of the country, I think.
What are you gonna do?
Oh my God, guys, I'm done. Good night.
No, I was gonna say, no, and I think there was the best line was from his right hand. I was gonna say assistant, but she doesn't seem like his assistant. She's in the shop, but in terms of rebellion, like, she seems to be like, oh yeah, like she's like his lieutenant basically. It's like she's very much a part of things.
Yeah.
She basically says what I think is great advice just for life in general. Like, what are you fretting about? It's either gonna work or it's not. There's nothing you can do now. Like, you put the pieces in place. It's got a 50-50 shot of working. It's either gonna work or it doesn't, and that's it. And you just gotta wait. So go clean some coins, you old bag. Like, that was that.
That's the vibe, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
Like, she bullied him a little bit. But yeah, I do think Dave Brook pointed it out on our Andor spoilers channel on Discord that, like, Stellan Skarsgård, I know we didn't get to see him this much, so I'm kind of dipping back in the last week, but man, that he's having a field day with this role. Like,
he's so good.
He's phenomenal in this show so far. So I hope next week we get a little bit more of him. I think next week, shocking prediction here. I think next week we're going to get a little bit of action. I'm going to go ahead and guess that we're going to get the culmination of this little plan. But also, I'm cool if they're going to do 3-episode arcs. I like that.
Well,
idea.
That's exactly what Tony Gilroy had said, is that they are 3-episode arcs.
That's awesome.
And so this is, obviously, we're building up to it. And the storming the castle is going to take place next episode. And then the episode after that, we have no idea.
My only complaint, 3-episode arcs, great. Love it. I'm into it. How about you just release 3 episodes at a time then?
Yep, I completely agree with you, buddy.
Make them one episode.
Yeah, or just make it one long episode, 1 hour and a half long episode. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I haven't seen I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm really trying to withhold the judgment of the pacing until the end, but that cat's out of the bag. I'm not thrilled with it. I feel like you could do these in longer episodes, like maybe an hour and a half episodes, but one episode.
Trim it down.
Just give it
trim it down just a bit.
a little,
and
like a hair.
Get you a movie length episode.
Yeah.
4 of them.
No, I agree with that. I think there was a lot done in the first episode that set the tone, like especially in that opening sequence where like there are like 3 things you need to know about this show. First of all, prostitutes are here, so it's for the adults. Second of all,
sex workers, my guy.
Yeah,
sex workers. But go ahead.
Second of all, Cassian will shoot people in the face.
Again.
Doesn't care.
Again.
Third, corporations are booty and they suck. We gotta burn them all down. That's the show you're dealing with.
Well, corporations,
That is kind of the show.
corporations and the popo.
Are all booty. Get them out of here. So there's tone setting things that I think are great, but then there's a lot of other stuff that I think in those first 3 episodes you're like, oh, you don't need this. You don't need this. Quite honestly, could have gotten rid of everything from Cassian's, all the flashbacks to Cassian as a kid. I was like, first of all, I thought my subtitles were broken. I was like, how come I don't know what they're saying? And then
why don't I know what they're saying?
Because you don't need to know. Cool, whatever. It was cool. It was cool world building, sure, but it's Star Wars. I don't need world building.
That's gonna come back.
I think it's coming back.
Oh yeah,
I think that's coming back. I didn't mind that because it did point out Andor as a refugee.
Yeah.
As we discussed last week.
Basically,
absolutely kidnapped.
Drugged and
100%.
kidnapped.
Drugged and kidnapped.
Right? Like I didn't misread that.
Our friend Dr. Drea pointed that out very well. That he was kidnapped, drugged, not in that order, drugged, then kidnapped, and is a refugee. And I think that's essential to his identity. I think that's really important to note. So while I do think it's interesting where those flashbacks were placed, if it's going to pay off later, I think they were necessary. I just don't know about the structure, the outline of this show. I'm not sure about it yet, but we'll see. We'll see it by the end if it all works out, and if but whatever.
But they have to come back because we have his sister, who he was looking for. Literally, the first scene we're shown is him looking for his sister in a brothel. We know she was there at some point, so she survived despite us being told by mom, kidnapper mom, that. Everyone was supposed to be killed on the planet. That's why she kidnapped him. But obviously, we don't know anything after that point or between those points.
Right.
Yeah, I think I should clarify. I think I do think like the origin of how Andor got to become Andor is important. I just think where they put it, like it doesn't need to be in that episode. Like it's like you could have done that. I feel like that could have been done elsewhere and sped up those first 3 episodes. But still, I enjoy it, and I think you are absolutely right, Nicole, that like we're going to be able to really judge whether or not the pacing works at the end of this show. If there's a good enough payoff, it'll all be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. Well, I think that is enough. We, again, talked longer than the episode, so that's got to tell you something. I enjoyed it, so it's...
Is that the sign of a good show or a bad show?
I don't know. It could go either way.
I think it's the sign of a... It's a sign of a deep show where you have enough to talk about. It doesn't have to be good or bad. This one, I enjoyed the episode, so it was good for me. But
even with the very, very snails-like pacing, I'm still very much enjoying it. It's the exploration of the characters and the shots again are just so good that I'm still very, very much liking it.
So, all right, and with that, we'll wrap it up for this week. You can contact us through email, talkintauntauns@aiptcomics.com. You can find us on Twitter @Talkin Tauntauns. You can join our Patreon and join us on Discord and join Patreon joining through aiptcomics.com. Stop shaking your head at me.
I'm not. It was a good line read, Jim. It was a good line read.
Yeah, I don't have this written down. This is all off the top. Yeah, this is
no way.
Yeah,
no way.
Is it a script?
I know, right? I'm just amazing. Share the show with the friends.
Share it with an enemy.
Share it with an enemy. Share it with your neighbor. Share it with that guy in the street that you just walked by and he gave you a creepy smile. I don't care.
Share it with your cat.
Share it with your dog. Mm-hmm. Give us a 5-star review.
Don't you dare share it with your lizard, though. We've got enough reptiles listening to this show.
Oh my lord.
Wow. You can share with your lizard. I'm
Yeah, I don't give a crap.
Actually, no frogs. I really don't like frogs. That's a hard stance. I'm not a frog guy.
Okay.
Well, it's a good thing you're not a permanent co-host because I'm pro frog.
We're not inviting you back next week, Connor.
Believe me, this is something for me and my therapist to get into, and we haven't figured it out yet.
All right. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.